Record.
I'm that girl who knows that nothing lasts forever. So think about that for a minute. When you're having fun and you're feeling that beautiful inner peace, savor every minute of it because we know that it can be taken away as we're given new opportunities to trigger people or to be triggered ourselves for new growth. Yay, right? And so also think about that when you're finding you're struggling with processing and coping with those triggers and with our responsibilities being here on earth at this time. Fascinating, right? So remember, nothing lasts forever, not the good and not the bad. And so it's always evolving and transforming. And we think that we get to a certain level where we think, oh, we are just so advanced right now. We just, so fantastic with our spirituality or whatever. And it's almost like this. As soon as we notice that we have graduated, we have evolved from one step to another step, it's fantastic, but it doesn't last long, does it? Because our teams, our collectives, our guides are like, fantastic, next. And we have next, and it's great, isn't it? And along my journey being a quantum metaphysical quantum practitioner with QHHT and BQH sessions, I think I had a really good approach to it, which was I know nothing. Didn't know anything. And I kind of had heard a few things here and there, but I didn't quite know what really was going on behind the scenes. What was the significance and purpose of a whole lot of things that was happening to not just me, but for humanity and this planet. So I think I had a really great sort of a vantage point because I was just naturally very curious and wanted to understand more. And it seems like for certain people who have been awoken for a long time and who have been aware of spirituality for a long time, they really get stuck in this concept that they know everything and that they're really comfortable with that. And as we know, things evolve all the time, including how the shift will be. And I've heard it unfold in many different directions as humanity has needed to be able to have those really powerful experiences and lessons. It just sounds like we're getting softer and softer and softer approaches to awaken humanity and for this shift to occur. And while some big events, which you could assume and label as being awful, tragic events that are coming to awaken humanity even further, we understand that before that big event happens, and there's many of those events coming, we're going to have softer awakening disclosures. Now, I know those people who are already awoken to the agendas of what's going on, very impatient, very intolerant, and just feeling very how obvious it is now. But we know that there are many people that are still refusing to wake up. Because what does it look like to wake up? Then you actually have to accept what's going on and accept the reality that we're in and how we've been manipulated and coerced and a whole lot of stuff because people have been using their free will to follow. And so it's sort of like those spiritual people who have been awake for a long time and they've followed others. And while it may have been true and accurate information at that time, we've evolved. I see a lot of people talking about how they only focus on the violet flame light for their healing, and that's all they do is the purple flame, blah 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 blah. Fantastic, but there is a whole range. And from when I've been asking, because I really am curious about my clients, I deeply care about them, and I want to find out all their routines and their habits, and to really unpack it with the subconscious. And what I love about the subconscious, the main guide, the master guide, the higher version of self, but not the higher stuff, because we are all multidimensional beings living this fantastic 3D life in this small aspect with this fantastic body, remembering we are not the bodies, we just have bodies. It seems like a lot of my clients have had this beautiful experience where it was really successful once or twice or a few times where they caught on this violet flame and this is their go-to now, this is their habits, their routines, and they will never think about why and expand upon it. And I want to sort of say to you, explore the energy fields and vibrations and frequencies of all light. And from my experience, what the subconscious will say to the clients, regardless of whatever collectives they're at and regardless of what life contracts they have, the white light is a very pure, high vibrational frequency. And it is sort of the akin, what they would like to label, because we love our labels, is source love energy. So, there's that. But, if you are high vibrational and loving your life and you've got inner peace and you've got enough energy and perspectives to have unconditional love and acceptance of all, keep doing that. Whatever you're doing, keep doing that and forever do that. Is my opinion. So I had asked a lot of people, I'm just going to change my screen, ask some people what they wanted to understand about metaphysics and if there was any sticking points. And I'm going to try and go through them as a summary. Some of them I've already well explained in many sessions and others I haven't, but we can explore as much as I can today. So someone was asking about the inner earth, and is it possible for a human to have had a lifetime in inner earth? And yes, a fun thing is, being a multidimensional being, we could have lifetimes currently in many other places, right? So for some people whose master guide or main guide is their higher version of self, because sometimes it's just our friends, because in soul level. So it's a bit complicated. This is why I recommend everyone have their own quantum sessions to be able to channel their own information. But when we write our life contracts, sometimes we want our really close soul family to be our main guide. And so that is usually when the being, so for example, like I know some Palladians, right? Their true essence is the Palladians that are on board ships. And so they've put themselves into a status of, I don't even know what the fluid name is, but they're they've put themselves into these like capsules, and they've paused themselves as they are consciously having experiences in 3D. And once this experience in 3D is done and dusted, then they go back and wake up, and it's almost like, oh, that was an interesting dream. That was just my entire lifetime on Earth, but it doesn't feel like that on board in their concept of time and reality, and it gets very confusing. So for those situations, they are not their own guides because they're in a dreamlike state. They're focusing everything that they are, and so they have their soul family supporting them and helping them. So who is your subconscious? Who is your main guide? Who is helping you in this lifetime? And you can guarantee they love the crap out of you, and they're always encouraging you. And sometimes it is tough love, but it's still love. And they know what you're capable of. They know what you're capable of more than what you know you're capable of. And so what you can remember you're capable of, I should say. So your life contract is very significant, and we must try to obey it as much as possible, not because we're slaves to this planet, but because it's significant. What our contracts are, think about it as a massive big web of connections and progress in helping humanity. And I have created a big web of connections for growth and communications and all this sort of stuff to help people. And we need to be able to have so much empowerment of self that we can be able to assist all those other connections of all those other amazing people here on Earth. And if we haven't stepped up and done our purpose of actually what we're trying to and are supposed to be doing here, we're missing some parts. And it does seem like humanity is missing some really crucial parts that need to be awoken to realize how big they are and how much when they have their awakening, they can ripple out their profound connections, and it's fantastic and purposeful. Anyway, so getting back to inner earth lifetimes, of course, it's going to be like this today, so bear with me. So yes, you could have a parallel life, what we call parallel lives, but technically all other lifetimes we have lived are parallel because everything exists. Even the 12-year-old me exists currently, because as we know, time is not linear. And so it's about our, everything is happening. So all the other planet lifetimes I've had are currently happening, and my subconscious, he's doing his fantastic life in a higher dimension. And I haven't really been that sort of curious about my other parallel lives, even though I do know I have some currently on Earth experiencing 2022 too. Experiencing what I would date and label as my time now, my concept of time. If I looked at the date, oh, look, it's the 1st of August. How fantastic. So how many other soul essences, soul fragments of myself, of my part of, or all parts of source, gets a bit complicated when you start sort of breaking down and fracturing the soul, the complete collective of consciousnesses that make up source, make up God, whatever you want to call it, and then they sort of break down and break away to have their own independent experiences. That's what we call our higher selves. And then we can have limitless amounts of fractions of self, of source. And but while we're all soul family, and it gets very fantastic, and also gets very confusing and complicated. And then when you mix in lazy labels, make lazy assumptions, and blah 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 blah, it gets really confusing. So this is why it's really important to be able to focus on the lifetime we have right now, who we are right now, and figure out why we're here right now. So, I think it's really empowering. And I see lots of people get super, super, super distracted for many reasons when they're focusing on other lifetimes, because they're holding on to big ego attachments to labels of who they were in other lifetimes, and they sort of think that's great bragging points. But as we know, we're not inherited skill sets. We have to earn and gain them, including this lifetime. And so we may have a life contract that could have heaps of amazing skill sets, but we actually have to work to get them back again into our conscious being to be able to do it. And so a lot of people are like, just subconscious, give me all my skill sets, thanks. And the subconscious is saying, I would freaking love to, my bestie, absolutely love to. But you have to start empowering yourself, and to be able to trust self, and to build confidence and all that sort of stuff, and do all of your inner work, shadow work, whatever you want to call it, to be able to get back online, to be, your most fantastic self. And that's when the client's like, I'm out. No, that sounds too hard. Next option. And that's when they will sort of slip into that whole, I can create my own reality. Yeah, that's a mindset you can create, but when you are not able to understand and acknowledge and respect your own life contract that you gave yourself, you're going to be in some turmoil, and that's when you start feeling like you're a little victim, and slave planet comes to mind, and we're all sulking and wanting to go home. So it's all choices. So yes, it's very possible for us to have had lifetimes on inner earth. And what I have explored and experienced in regressions with my clients who have, they go back to lifetimes where they've already completed that full lifetime. So it's not a current lifetime, so it's not a parallel lifetime. They had a birth and they had a death, and they went to the in-between place where everyone goes in between lives, and now the subconscious wants them to be able to remember that complete page of their life experiences as Bobby. And so there has been clients of mine who have had inner earth lifetimes and have had soul families there in inner earth as well. And it seems like, how do you get there? How do you get to inner earth? Well, our planet has had many shifts of land masses and some collapses and a whole lot of stuff. So it seems like we were actually a lot more high frequency vibrations and more advanced when we were actually in true balance and peace and harmony with the planet, and we could actually read the energy and empower ourselves to be very evolved. It seems like the average Joe now is very deep in fear, confusion. They're loving the toxic foods, not realizing what they're doing to themselves. They're addicted to sugar, they're addicted to pharmaceuticals, they're addicted to mind-altering drugs, and they love that, and they think they're high vibrational. So that's all cool and all, but not really giving you the best sort of vibration that is in a true alignment to self. So yes, so some of those beings, when say Atlantis was collapsing and Lemuria was collapsing, for example, great examples actually, they went underground. to protect themselves, and they knew that there was, you know, portals or whatever doors you want to sort of call them, to be able to get into the inner earth. Plus, at the time of the dinosaurs, a lot of those beings also went underground too, because it was just so chaotic on the surface. And so yeah, it's very interesting to explore the inner earth people. Very fantastic. You know, they're very kind, they're very advanced. I would say the majority of them are very advanced. According to their collectives that they're connected into. You know that with much love, the reptilians cannot evolve beyond the third dimension. And so, you know, if they are reptilian based, they will not be able to evolve in their mindsets or their physical bodies beyond the 3D. And so, you know, that's really their sort of frustrations as a collective, because they do want to evolve, because they've sort of had the full range of experiences with that way of life, and they would like to keep their survival of their way of life and their cultures pure, but they also realize that some of the things aren't really serving them anymore, and they sort of want to grow from it. And it's kind of like when we're at kindergarten, right? When we've expanded upon, you know, eating the glue, eating the face paint, or the, you know, whatever, and, you know, it's time to get to go and grow in the next class. And, you know, it's a collective movement. The whole class needs to be ready to go to the next class, and it's just like the whole collective needs to go. And of course, you know, there's always exceptions to the rules, and there are some beings that have gone ahead, but as a collective, as a whole, all collectives want to graduate to the next step and the next phase, because it gets boring being in kindergarten forever. And as we know, nothing lasts forever. This is kind of the big theme for the day. So yes, very possible about the inner earth. It's very fascinating. And if you're curious and want to know more about this, channel this information for yourself in quantum sessions. I think the best thing out there right now is that quantum sessions with QHHT with interns are free. They're wanting to train, they're wanting to help you the best way that they can. So why not take advantage of that? You know, it makes total sense to be able to do it. And before you keep spending your money on mediums and whatever else you think you need, before you spend your money on those people, you're loved, you're never alone, you're incredibly worthy, you're incredibly capable, and it's all up to you when you want to empower yourselves. Doesn't matter whatever labels of princesses, unicorns, fairy dust, whatever you were in another lifetime. This lifetime is the most important and the most possibly fantastic lifetime for you to empower yourself, to know your self-value, your worth, and what you're supposed to be doing in this incredibly fancy, important time here on Earth. So anyway, fascinating times. So just answered one question. It's going to be a few. So they do know, the inner earth beings do know what's happening to this planet, because they're so connected with this planet. So they know that the planet's soul is going to reincarnate into another physical 5D body, while we are 3D in this body. You know, Gaia has wanted to transcend into a higher dimensional vessel. It was supposed to be here. We understand why it can't be here, unfortunately, but you know, everything changes. So we have to accept that and appreciate, you know, what we can appreciate now, and it's very important. So when the shift happens, we're not all just guaranteed that we're going to go to the new earth. That's for some people, and they, you know, some beings would love that. Some souls would love that. That's going to be fantastic for them, for their, you know, stepping stones. Some beings are like, I'm out, I've already done 5D heaps of times. I just wanted to help humanity evolve and shift. So I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go to my home planet, or I'm going to be able to help other planets that are also in decay and decline, blah, 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 blah. So you don't know by just picking and looking at someone. It possibly could be the most grumpiest, unevolved, unaware, unself-aware person that actually is a super advanced being who's just so sick of having to be here in 3D. So you don't really know what soul contracts and what people are actually have got up their sleeve in their soul contract possibilities. So, you know, we can't have any assumptions of who's in that meat suit vehicle, while we can make lazy assumptions and definitely cast many lazy labels onto them, every person could potentially have a really profound, super advanced soul within them. And I know many wives who have been shocked, had the shock, absolutely shocked, that their husbands are more advanced soul-wise than they are. And yet they're the ones that are constantly in negativity, in doubt, and completely oblivious to everything. And it's the wife that's so angry because the husband's not awakening to the wife. And ironically, that is perfectly purposeful for the wife to grow and empower herself. Doesn't that make sense? That little rock, that little density nugget of no joy is truly trying to show the wife, don't do this. This is dense. You empower yourself. You grow, because it's all a soul independent journey. So I hope that can help. And we have to have unconditional love. While we do not necessarily love that rock that is pushing us to love ourselves and empower ourselves, and we may feel really bitter and resentful because we want that rock to love us, see, again, it's all about empowering self. And it's not selfish. It is our life contracts. And if our life contracts is to make sure that we are forced to empower ourselves, to awaken to ourselves, to be able to learn how to grow out of that density and that limited perspectives, jazz hands for joy when we actually see everything as a lesson and opportunity for us to grow. So we can't make any assumptions of what the souls are, because they're usually very advanced, and it can really humble a wife when they discover certain information, and husbands as well, obviously. So another thing that seems to be an assumption is we can just rip up our karmic contracts with people. Oh yeah, don't like you, done, never going to learn from that. Okay, so you're going to rip up that karmic contract with so-and-so to then find another so-and-so to see if you can get it this time. And, our guides don't mind if we have many so-and-sos in our lives. They're going to keep pushing us. And again, it is, we're at the kindergarten, we're about to get to the door of the next class, but we have to learn, to tie our shoes. And, doesn't matter how many shoes we throw away and try to get Velcro shoes and slip-on shoes and jandals, and then say, oh no, it's all cool, I love wearing bare feet, whatever excuses we'll try to make. It doesn't matter how we learn to tie our shoes. Our guides are very clever, and they will force us to actually empower ourselves to learn those lessons. So you may throw away one life contract, you think, rip up that karmic whatever, but ultimately you're just throwing away one version to then find another version, and you will think, oh, this is all good because I've ripped up that karmic connection. It was him, he was the asshole, those shoes were the assholes, that's the problem, I should never wear stilettos, blah 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 blah. So we use our 3D mind so much to get really confused about what's happening, and we choose the lessons to empower ourselves to grow. So those karmic contracts are what we really could say is our life contracts to empower ourselves. So whatever those rocks are trying to force us and push us to experience to empower ourselves, and whatever those shoes are that's complicated that we can't figure out yet, we're going to be given many opportunities to be able to grow 100%. And so this is why we've seen our friends jump from one same relationship to another same relationship to another same relationship and another same relationship, while all being a victim to all of these narcissists. Gosh, I don't know how I've got such bad luck, they will say. And, it's very interesting because, it's usually the empaths that want to be vulnerable victims, because they say it's so hard for me because I'm always trying to help people and I always attract broken people and blah, 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 blah. And ironically, those broken people and those hurt people and those narcissists, those lazy labels, again, to show the person you need to empower yourself, stop being distracted by trying to fix others and heal others and judge others and want to be the savior of others. You actually have to do your own inner work. And sometimes for those empaths who are just like, it's just because I'm so gifted, because I can feel everything, you actually have to have a fine balance between not breaking yourself and not hiding from the world. So, often we will try to protect ourselves from feeling everything. And it is scary sometimes when we can feel the pain of others and we don't know what to do with it. There is often it's an opportunity to feel so sorry for them because they've had abuse and they don't want to do their own inner work, and so they just want to tell you how horrible their rape was, and they want to tell you and tell you and tell you and tell you just so you feel absolutely mortified, traumatized for them, heartbroken for them, blah 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 blah. But when they're not wanting to grow from it and heal from themselves and see it as lessons in a metaphysical perspective, they're holding on to that trauma just for a payoff, just so you feel their pain. They don't want to grow from their pain. They just want to share their pain with the world. So, as an empath, see where everyone's at, but do not absorb what's going on for them, and remind them how to empower themselves, because you have empowered yourself. You don't have to be, raped, for example, to have compassion for their situation, but be able to question what was the lessons there, what did you learn from it, how did you grow from it. And usually, mostly, ironically, most of these experiences are life contracts that people wanted to experience. As hard as that may be to understand, and I'm certainly not condoning anything, but definitely explore this in your own sessions. Why very horrific experiences happen to our bodies and our minds. Very brave souls coming down. And often, for an example, if you've been raped in 10 lives and it's hurt your soul and you cannot understand why, and it wasn't karmic contracts because you were victims because there were certain other beings who used their free will to violate you, to be able to help you understand and learn and heal from that, you may sign a contract and organize a contract to be the rapist. Okay? Not because you want to create bad and hurt people, but because you want to understand what it takes for someone to be motivated enough to do that. And so when you understand the range of experiences to get and be that, then you have to heal yourself. And often your victim it's contracted for them to be the victim for this, and they're advanced souls. It's not going to break them, but this is just interaction. It's just an experience. And I know that this is so heated, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to trigger anyone, but I'm trying to understand myself, again, why people would have life contracts to be a rapist, a murderer, someone who wears clogs. Have to add in the humor because it's so dense, right? And so this is why a lot of people are afraid sometimes to have regressions. What if I was a murderer? They say to me. I don't know if I could cope with that. And I say, well, I've heard very valid reasons why people have murdered in other lifetimes. So, we can't judge. We cannot judge anything. It's all observations. And when we gain the metaphysical perspective of why, it's really helpful, because we have to respect all life contracts. Even if our moral compass is like, that's horrific, that's horrible, blah, 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 blah. Again, remove your emotions and be able to think for a second about the lessons there. What is the lessons? What are the experiences? What's the purpose between all of these people? when you know it's probably soul family that are coming here to experience these things, to be able to understand the psyche and what pushes and drives someone to do something so heinous, obscene, revolting. Can you understand, if you've had many lifetimes being the victim, to then actually be, you know, the naughty one? If you would actually really profoundly experience and understand what the human, how it gets to be. I've seen lots of life contracts change where some souls have, you know, really seen the rapid decline of humanity because of money, and how greedy and manipulative people become with money. And then their life contract has changed, and now they are doing exactly the same thing. They're manipulating for money through pure greed and ego. And yet, if you'd spoken to that person, you know, prior to their change of contracts, because everything can evolve, and especially when we've had many different extensions of time, in terms of time, for the shift. We were all supposed to have shifted many different times, and every time we get this sort of like this new extension of experiences, you know, it's really obvious when the life contracts change. You know, for many purposes, there's lots of walkouts and walk-ins and a whole lot of fantastic stuff that, you know, I always find fascinating, but it's always incredibly significant and purposeful. So I know there is this balance between wrapping our emotional hearts and our minds all together to be able to find balance. And I know so many people are just not ready to be able to learn bigger perspectives of actually certain things, such as rape, such as slaughtering animals. There was a conversation I had yesterday, and while the animal kingdom knows how stuck and low vibrational most of humanity can be if they choose to, their life contracts is to be able to have very high vibrational lives, which is infused into their meat. And so when they are consumed, the memory of muscle is digested, as well as the frequency energy of the animal, and it's actually uplifting, which is, you know, outrageous for a vegan to hear that. You know, and again, ask in sessions. We were supposed to be beautifully and respectfully in balance and harmony with everything on this earth, including the animal kingdom, including Gaia, the planet. You know, we were supposed to be incredibly in balance. And now we have an unbalance. There's definitely no true, real balance here. The only balance we can have is our balanced mindsets and be able to see things from the bigger perspective, because it does help us understand things and the purposes of it. But of course, if you struggle with life contracts and the concepts of those sort of things, you would just feel like, well, this is very, you know, these are convenient excuses. And you know, that's valid, but definitely explore it in sessions. However, I have found this is what stops people from doing sessions. They don't want to be wrong. They've got these great lazy assumptions, and they've got lots of real good reasons why they're pissed off and limited and blocked and angry. So why would they ever want that to be taken from them? Ugh. Not fun for them, because they want to be dense. They want to be angry. They want to be right. That, you know, they want to have lots of judgment. And, you know, that's a choice. And usually when people grow with a, you know, spiritual connection and find their inner peace and balance, they actually realize there is no good or bad. And then they want to start figuring out the lessons and the purposes of all the experiences. So, you know, I find it fascinating, but I understand that it's not everyone's cup of tea. So I'm going to try and find the next sort of question. We've already discussed the use of drugs with ascensions, and while it can be a sort of a helpful stepping stone to kind of release our worries and fears and kind of, you know, slow our busy minds, all drugs limit us. 100% they limit us. So again, do you have more faith in a drug versus your own capabilities of reaching higher perspectives and mindsets? And if you're still really angry and bitter and don't want to see any significance and purposes and reasons for life contracts and experiences, you're going to be taking the drugs because you will not want to grow with a metaphysical mindset. So that's when people reach for the drugs, thinking that's going to give them, nirvana, enlightenment, and all that sort of stuff. And it's a stepping stone-ish, but there is no shortcuts here. You have to grow your conscious concepts and understand with common sense and rationality, from understanding things from our guides and collectives and all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to find the next question. So dreams are very significant at the moment, and it sounds like for most people who reach out to me trying to understand their dreams and what we explore in sessions, and their subconscious tells them it's a parallel lifetime, or it can be another lifetime that's had a complete cycle of birth and death. But there's usually those birth and death life cycles that you dream of. There's just little sticking points that they want you to be able to see and understand to be able to apply to this lifetime. Fantastic. But those parallel lifetimes that haven't died and they're still currently living, if you stalked them on Facebook and knew their name, potentially, you would find out more about them. But it's not about finding each other, because you are very much connected in. And I know when my clients have had their parallel lifetimes die in their perception of current time, they feel like they're almost missing a limb. Like they didn't even know that limb was there. They always just felt that limb, and then suddenly it's gone. And there can be an emptiness feeling. So it's actually quite upsetting, because they often have experienced that life exit point for that parallel life, or a big sort of shock or trauma or something. We're very connected in, even though we may be the little finger, and we are very much aware that we're this little finger, but this little finger probably doesn't appreciate the whole team. And if you cut off one of those little fingers, this finger would definitely notice potentially the difference when they try to grab something or do something. So energetically, we are very, very connected in, and it can be very confusing for people when there is big sicknesses or big accidents or tragedies that the parallel lives are experiencing. It's just this darn thing of us being so intuitively connected, because the veil of memory is forgetfulness is kind of very translucent right now. And we are more vibrationally higher than ever before. And so, the more high vibes we are, the more truly connected we are. And we are more able to feel into, the whole range of jazz hands, fingers that we are. So, it is actually quite traumatizing if you have been, and that it's not your body, but you're witnessing a death scene, and, you've got to, it's quite a lot, and unfortunately it seems to be very common. So yeah, it's we're very connected in. So again, if you're having some profound dreams, these are significant. I know lots of people just push off and fob off dreams. Oh, well, it's just, they're all symbolic, blah, 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 blah. Again, jump to comfortable, lazy assumptions, and, guessing what's going on there. But really, truly take the time to explore in a quantum session, and let your subconscious explain to you what the heck happened and why. It feels like it gives people a little comfort to understand it. And then, especially for those souls, those fragments of souls that have shifted, because then we can call them in and just reassure my clients they're okay, you're not lost, you're going to see them again, blah, 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 blah. And it helps the soul who's remaining here, who can feel everything, but consciously can't put everything into place. And sometimes these dreams just feel so darn significant and make us so emotional. Experiencing it can be very confusing. And often, people will start this conversation like this. Okay, Joe, so it's going to sound crazy, but I'm just going to talk to you about a dream. And then I want to make a laugh out of it. Like, oh, is it a dirty dream? Tell me more, just because I can already feel their worries. So I try to always add humor into it. But when we're trying to express a really profound dream that can be quite sort of traumatizing, it's hard, because if we talk to someone that's not really sort of open, they're just going to be like, oh, forget about it. It's just a dream. It's nothing. Oh, it must have been that movie you watched 27 years ago, because it sounds like that movie that, with that actor, blah, 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 blah. Your friends who aren't, or some of your friends who may not be like metaphysically aware, may want to just dismiss it and downplay it, even though there's something huge going on in your heart and in your emotions and in the sense of loss. And, it's very confusing for a lot of people, and I understand that. So hopefully that will help. So the question is about what is the sun? And I know that we've been told it's a planet and it's a very fiery thing and it heats us up. But when we explore it in sessions, it's cold fusion rather than fire. And it's actually a portal. And I don't understand the full concepts of how that works, but it seems like instead of it being explosions of flame and big solar explosions, energy bursts, solar bursts, that's actually what is recorded of ships coming out of the portal. But I know lots of people tell you it's it's something, embrace yourself, because in 3 days time, you're going to feel the effects of it. And so when you get told that by someone, you're going to be bracing yourself, and you will be trying to look for the big, gosh, I can't remember what it is because I don't listen to it, but what is it? In solar bursts. And so really what that actually is just more ships coming into our stratosphere. And so if that's if that ship is connected to you, you would feel more of a boost of energy as you're feeling and sensing those souls again coming closer to you. That more sense of home's going to uplift you and a whole lot of stuff. And so this is why lots of people are saying, I follow all of these people that tell me about these solar bursts, and I should be experiencing and feeling all this stuff, but I'm so worried. There must be something wrong with me, Joe, because I just don't feel what they're telling me, and I'm bracing myself and I'm prepping myself, and I just don't get it. And so we explore it in sessions, and the subconscious as well, because it's not everyone feels these, solar storms or whatever it is, because it's again lazy assumptions, confusion, and it's not really what's going on. And when you explore it in sessions, there is, it's different from what we assume. We've been told so much. It's just like people only want to assume we're only the bodies. That's it. And when we die, that's it. The body is done. We're done forever. End of scene. And it takes quite a bit for people to get over that. And we're so indoctrinated with our belief systems that it can be very challenging for us to accept it. So again, this is a great thing to explore in sessions. But what I have heard in many, many, many sessions is people exploring, going closer to the sun and getting really freaked out because they're thinking, oh gosh, I know that this is the sun and I can feel this intense heat. And what it really is the high frequency vibrations. And as you know, the higher frequency you are, the more hotter you become, because it's just more and more advanced. And it's hard to explain because I'm not really sort of a science person or anything really, apart from just trying to mansplain the experiences of many sessions where people seem that they feel like they're flying towards the sun. They're really kind of excited but scared because they think that they're going to get burnt, and then they go through a portal and then they find themselves somewhere else, and they're like, oh, that's fantastic. And they're very confused about it because they thought they would be definitely goners. So again, when they're having these regressions, it's not their subconscious part. The subconscious comes in after the regression part of the session. So they're using the regression part to be able to explain it with their consciousness through their mind's eye, what's going on and why. And when the subconscious comes in, she can explain it really well to be able to understand what's going on for that client. And so if you've had other lifetimes where you've traveled a lot and you've come to Earth and observed Earth, for example, and then you've gone back to your home planet, you would use the portal of the sun or another planet place to be able to travel. So it's It's very interesting, very interesting. So we really have to sort of throw away all our concepts of how we think the universe is and explore whatever to make sense. But again, that could be fantastic distractions for us, as we should be focusing on this lifetime now and how to empower ourselves the best way possible, whatever that looks like. And you know, it's a lot going on. It's definitely hard to balance it if we sort of feel overwhelmed, but you know, having that inner peace and trust and faith that all is well, and that if we just sort of surrender and trusting that the universe is providing for us exactly what we should be having, you know, we can just take each moment as it comes and empower ourselves. With that, one moment. So one of the hot topics that people love to explore is crop circles and what's really creating those crop circles. And as there is no true sense of time from our perspective and from their perspective, what we could be seeing is today this crop circle just appeared actually could have been an energy field that could have been either above or below the earth gravitational whatever, and has formed something that has bent over the corn or the wheat or whatever. And so yes, it could be interpreted as messages of geometry, sacred geometry, and it's all fascinating and it is very purposeful, but it may not necessarily be energy coming from and pushing down onto the earth. It actually could be the other way around. So definitely explore for each one that you feel really drawn to or, you know, curious about. But this is a fantastic time for you to feel into what does it feel for you? What is the significance? Are you still asking for confirmation about certain events to come? You know, what is it really for you? And we know that sacred geometry is extremely powerful, and it is beyond our comprehensions from our conscious minds. And it's really information for our souls, our soul essence that is absorbing all of the experiences. Some of it can be activating us to the new levels. Oh, look, we can leave kindergarten now and get to the next class. You know, it's very significant what's happening and why. So are we distracting ourselves with the next class we're going to do, or are we focusing on the lessons that we have today to empower ourselves? So you know, it's all very exciting times. There's so much disclosures happening, and you know, what does it take for you to settle in with the information about certain disclosures that you've really been seeking to be able to get to the next class? And again, usually it's about mindsets and perceptions to be able to accept why there is this big grand awakening to trigger people awake, to notice the agendas and what's really going on for humanity and this planet. So much, everything is to awaken humanity. There's no accidents, everything is big messages. Are we willing to accept what the messages are or not? And you know, sometimes when we want to just have this lifetime forever and just be able to focus on this lifetime forever, you know, that's valid, and that can definitely keep people grounded and balanced and just heads down and focus. But sometimes when we have life contracts to be more than that, and to not be distracted by our jobs or whatever, and actually be of service to humanity in other ways. And it seems like a lot of other ways is doing this 15-minute meditation with the white light healing, which they channeled through to us to be able to hear. And the more you can relax your mind and relax your body at just at a consistent thought of, oh, am I feeling stressed or pressured? Actually, let's just take it back a notch, because you know, there's lots of triggering experiences that are coming. There's something that I'm not enjoying my reaction to, something. So it's again just being really mindful of, are we on the go? Are we anxious? Are we worried about future events? Are we judging? What's going on there? So it's really great to be able to relax the body truly and completely and know what full relaxing is. While I know lots of people say, oh, I'll just go to sleep and relax, or I'll just meditate, actually truly being aware of your full body, of any tension in the body is really important, because a lot of us are misusing the bodies and putting a lot of strain and tear and wear on that body. So we hold our tension, and that starts hurting after a while. And so then we start thinking there's something wrong with us. And if we don't watch ourselves, we're starting to take painkillers or something to release that tension. So we're very capable of releasing our physical tension ourselves. But if we don't relax the bodies, then we're going to find a harder time to relax the mind. So it's, again, in the physical 3D, a balance between relaxing our minds and relaxing our bodies. And only we can do this. So be mindful of what you're putting in your bodies, and be mindful of what you're putting in your mind. And we all know that sugar it inflames our joints and our brain. It's really bad for us. And it's so significant, the power of salt, and really good, like Himalayan salts, the sea salts, any types of salts you can get your hands on, which is really pure, mucked around with. So I would have a Himalayan salt, I would have a sea salt, and I would have like a salt with a little bit of kelp or something. And you're wanting to get as much sort of minerals in your body, but it's that salt, that is that crystalline formation that's really helping. And a lot of people are confused about why they're sort of craving sort of certain foods like hot chips, for example, because we add the salt component in. So if you've got strange cravings, figure out and see, is it a salty snack? Because while we are constantly trying to avoid sugar and maybe having sugar and carbs, we really need to be having a lot more lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, and some salts to be able to really boost the body up. It's very important at this time, and especially the salt component seems to be significant. So don't take my word for it. See how your body feels when you detox from sugar. You actually feel so much more vitalized and really profound. And the sugar makes us depressed because it's swelling us so much. We're getting so much pressure in our joints, our minds, literally our brain swell. So you're pressurizing and becoming depressed because of this inflammatory. So if you cannot handle the thought of cutting out your sugar, then up your oils in terms of a krill oil or something else, because that will coat your body and help deflame. So you want to find something that's a natural anti-flam, and then see how you feel with that. And then you'll realize, oh, this actually makes me feel so much better for it. So whatever, if you are using sugar for feeding the inner child or whatever, be mindful of how you're going to combat that, because it does swell the body. We are allergic to it, I guess you could say. And so there's that. Okay, I feel like I've mansplained a whole bunch of stuff. I hope that you are inspired to check out and fact check me through your own sessions. That would be fantastic. And definitely channel this information for yourselves to find out what's really going on there. It's so helpful to be able to know ourselves and what's going on and why. And this is, a huge part of your awakening. So definitely fact check. Okay, guys, sending you lots of love. Drink much more water and just take the time to enjoy what you have today.